Welcome to Reno's World Podcast, the show where we explore the unexplored and dive deep into the mysteries that intrigue us all. I'm your host, Reno Rains. Today, we're venturing back to 1924 to dissect the infamous Ape Canyon incident, a tale of gold prospectors, alleged Bigfoot attacks, and a story that has fueled cryptid legends for a century. Was it a genuine encounter or an elaborate hoax? Stay tuned as we unravel the details. Before we jump in, don't forget to like, follow, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get the conversation started. On a sweltering summer night in July 1924, a group of gold prospectors in the rugged wilderness near Mount St. Helens, Washington, found themselves in the midst of an encounter that would etch its way into cryptozoological lore. According to contemporary newspaper articles, most notably an account in the Oregonian, and the detailed later memoir by one of the key figures, Fred Beck, a party of miners operating a gold claim near what is now known as Ape Canyon experienced an unprecedented assault by unidentified ape-like creatures. These creatures, described as standing roughly 7 feet tall and covered in thick, dark hair, were reported to have hurled rocks at the small log cabin where the miners had sought shelter. The prospectors, including Fred Beck, Marion Smith, Roy Smith, and others, had spent several weeks prospecting in the untamed forests of the Cascades. Their claim, positioned on the edge of a steep and narrow gorge later dubbed Ape Canyon, was the scene of routine mining activity until the incident unfolded. The miners initially reported encountering unusually large footprints, measuring up to 14 inches in length, with a distinctly human-like outline, yet possessing features that defied conventional zoological classification. These footprints, coupled with unexplained sounds echoing through the forest at twilight, set the stage for what was to become a night of terror. Eyewitness accounts uniformly describe an early encounter during the day when one or more of the men spotted a creature partially concealed behind a tree. Fred Beck's report states that, startled by the unexpected sight of what he termed an ape man, his companion, referred to in some accounts as Hank, discharged his rifle. The creature reportedly recoiled and disappeared into the forest, only for a more ominous sequence to begin that very night. As darkness fell, the miners retreated to their hastily constructed cabin. At approximately midnight, the tranquility of the night was shattered by a series of violent impacts against the cabin structure. According to the detailed testimony preserved in later memoirs and newspaper reports, large stones, or boulders in some descriptions, rained down upon the cabin, battering its walls and even breaching parts of the roof. The assault was not a brief skirmish, but a prolonged barrage that persisted intermittently throughout the night. The sound of rocks colliding with wood and the unmistakable thuds of heavy impacts created an atmosphere of dread that enveloped the stranded prospectors. Throughout the night, the miners maintained their defense with a barrage of gunfire. Their rifles were discharged repeatedly during moments when the assailants dared approach the cabin, and the testimony claims that in the chaos, at least one of the creatures was struck and, according to Beck, sent tumbling over the canyon's edge. Witnesses recounted that during brief respites between the rock attacks, the men would cautiously peer outside, only to catch fleeting glimpses of hulking, hairy figures darting among the shadows. Some accounts mention that the creatures even attempted to scale the cabin's walls, with one incident allegedly involving a creature partially entering through a broken window. The following morning, when the first rays of daylight dispelled the darkness, the beleaguered prospectors gathered what remained of their belongings and hastily abandoned the site. The physical evidence left behind, damaged logs, scattered stones, and the giant footprints, sparked immediate interest among local authorities and later cryptozoologists alike. U.S. Forest Service rangers, dispatched to investigate the claims, documented that the cabin showed signs of sustained impact, and that the surrounding area bore tracks that, at first glance, appeared anomalous. Local newspaper articles of the period reported that the miners' accounts, though sensational, were corroborated by several independent witnesses and were accompanied by tangible evidence such as the aforementioned footprints and the damaged state of the cabin. Over the ensuing decades, the incident became a cornerstone of Bigfoot lore in the Pacific Northwest, inspiring books, including Fred Beck's memoir, I Fought the Ape Men of Mount St. Helens, and numerous documentaries and reenactments. The location itself, once a barren mining claim, was christened Ape Canyon, and it soon evolved into a pilgrimage site for Bigfoot enthusiasts, researchers, and adventurous hikers hoping to glimpse a remnant of that eerie night. Authorities at the time, however, were not entirely convinced. The U.S. Forest Service investigation noted that the footprints could potentially be the result of hoaxing, and some contemporaries speculated that the stone bombardment might have been staged. Despite these reservations, the sheer consistency in the miners' detailed testimonies and the emotional intensity of their accounts lent the story an almost mythic authenticity. The incident was widely publicized in regional newspapers, reinforcing its place in local folklore and setting the stage for a debate that would span generations. The critical analysis, truth or hoax? With decades having passed since that fateful night, the evidence behind the Ape Canyon attack has been subjected to intense scrutiny by skeptics, believers, and academic researchers alike. In this final section, we challenge the narrative by weighing alternative theories and scrutinizing the physical and testimonial evidence. First, let us consider the physical evidence. The giant footprints, measuring between 13 and 14 inches in length, are often cited as a key piece of evidence supporting the presence of a mysterious, unknown primate. Proponents argue that the morphology of these prints, including features such as dermal ridges and an unusual toe arrangement, suggests that no known local animal could have produced them. However, Forest Service investigators at the time demonstrated that such prints could be fabricated with relative ease using conventional means. It is possible, as some critics have noted, that the miners could have manipulated or even faked these prints in an attempt to enhance their story. This possibility is bolstered by the fact that the cabin's damage, while dramatic, was later attributed by some to natural weathering or even the actions of local pranksters. Then there is the issue of eyewitness reliability. The miners, seasoned outdoorsmen accustomed to the rugged realities of frontier life, delivered accounts that were both vivid and detailed. Yet the passage of time and the inherent fallibility of human memory cast doubts on whether every element of their testimony can be taken at face value. While the emotional intensity of their recollections adds to the narrative's allure, it also raises the question of whether fear and adrenaline might have led to exaggerated perceptions of the events. The possibility that the men misinterpreted natural phenomena, a cascade of falling rocks, for example, or even the echoing calls of native wildlife, cannot be entirely discounted. Furthermore, alternative theories have emerged over the years. One widely circulated hypothesis is that the entire incident was orchestrated as a hoax by either the miners themselves or local individuals seeking to capitalize on the ensuing media frenzy. Notably, some local residents later claimed that teenagers from a nearby summer camp had been known to roll stones down the canyon as a prank, potentially mimicking the sounds and visual effects described in the miners' accounts. Such a scenario would explain both the physical evidence and the widespread media coverage, while also providing a motive rooted in local mischief. Additionally, the evolution of Fred Beck's own account, from a straightforward eyewitness report to a more fantastical narrative involving interdimensional beings, raises further red flags. The gradual embellishment of details over time suggests that the story, like many legends, might have grown in the telling. While the original reports were largely devoid of overt supernatural claims, later iterations incorporated elements that align more closely with modern Bigfoot mythology than with a simple case of mistaken identity or a misunderstood natural event. After weighing the physical evidence, eyewitness testimony, and alternative explanations, the balance of probability suggests that while the Ape Canyon attack might be rooted in a real and frightening incident, many of the more extraordinary claims were likely exaggerated over time. The initial report of a violent encounter in a remote canyon is plausible. Witnesses reported hearing strange sounds, seeing large footprints, and experiencing a barrage of falling rocks. Yet the absence of definitive, unaltered physical evidence, such as a carcass or incontrovertible biological samples, makes it difficult to affirm the existence of an unknown primate beyond a reasonable doubt. Final verdict. Based on the extensive evidence and analysis, it appears that the 1924 Ape Canyon attack is a complex tapestry woven from real events, human perception under stress, and subsequent myth-making. While it is entirely possible that the miners encountered something unusual in the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, and their fear and rapid recounting of events are to be respected, the extraordinary claims of rock-hurling ape men and interdimensional creatures do not hold up under rigorous scientific scrutiny. In conclusion, the core incident appears to have a basis in reality, a genuine night of terror experienced by prospectors, but the sensational details that evolved into the legend of the Ape Canyon attack are likely the result of embellishment, misinterpretation, and possible local hoaxes. Therefore, while the event itself may be true in its most basic form, the more extraordinary claims lack conclusive evidence and should be viewed with a healthy dose of skepticism. The legacy of Ape Canyon endures not as definitive proof of Bigfoot's existence, but as a fascinating chapter in the annals of American folklore, one that continues to ignite both wonder and debate among those who dare to peer into the shadowy realms of our natural world. That's a wrap for this episode of Reno's World Podcast. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the 1924 Ape Canyon incident, where gold prospectors near Mount St. Helens reported a harrowing encounter with ape-like creatures, a story that has fueled Bigfoot legends for decades. If you found this exploration intriguing, don't forget to like, follow, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps us bring more content your way. Stay curious, and until next time, keep exploring the wonders of our world.